Welcome back to the Synergistic CX podcast. This is part 3 of our 3-part episode where we're focusing on electronics retail stores. In the previous 2 parts of this episode, we explored the key elements shaping customer experience in this industry and also analyzed the customer journey map. Now in our final segment, we'll broaden the conversation with Andy Firth here as he shares his expert insights on the evolving landscape of customer experience. Christiani, my colleague here at the CX channel, will explain our interview, and we'll hear from Andy here on his perspectives, especially with his work at Ipsos UK.
Thank you.
So, Andy, thank you so much for being here. We have known each other for 14 years already.
Yeah.
And counting. Congratulations again on being the incoming president of MSPA. By the time that this episode goes live, you'll be the president, not the incoming president.
Yeah.
No pressure. And has over 25 years of experience in mystery shopping. And he's an expert in the intersection of mystery shopping, technology, advising client, and insights. And I will start my question with the future. As Eric said, we are recording live here in Tallinn at the MSP Europe Africa Conference. And my question for you is, tomorrow is the big day. You're stepping as our new president of MSP Europe Africa.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How do you see the future of the mystery shopping industry today? And how do you envision its evolution in the near future?
Well, it's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The thing I am really most passionate about with mystery shopping is the impact that mystery shopping data can have on businesses. Mystery shopping data by itself is often a treasure trove of data, but when it really comes to life is when you put it together and wrap around it other data sources. So that's my main angle as president. But obviously things like AI, using cameras to track movements, that sort of thing, I think are all going to come into play. But I still think that human-to-human connection, particularly in electronic retail stores, for example,
Yes.
that's always going to be there, and we're always going to need to measure it.
Great. And in your view, we are talking about right now the trends, and one of those were the AI and the sensors and proving value.
Yeah.
When you think about a leader, what key trends do you think that leaders should be paying attention in the mystery shopping industry today?
Well, certainly the combining of data, as I said before. I just think that's so critical, and you could do that really in any research, but I think it's really important in mystery shopping. I think the industry is is polarizing slightly. There are providers out there who offer really short, sharp, almost crowdsourced type surveys. And I think they can be useful for kind of small audit type work. But then there is still the more complicated mystery shopping where you need a robust sample, you need a representative sample, you need a detailed questionnaire, you need detailed briefing notes and shopper guidelines that are mainly used in those more, person-to-person interactions. So I do see things polarizing slightly, and I think leaders in the industry have to be aware of that.
Yeah, and it brings such complexity that if it's difficult for us and manage for our clients to understand this relevance, because I know that one of the principles that you defend is proving relevance, and relevance is key in your industry.
Yeah.
So in this world that you're talking about, where data is becoming more accessible and affordable, and with more and more data available, how do you see this definition of relevance shifting? And how can researchers ensure their work remains truly valuable to their clients?
Yeah, well, there is going to be more data, more and more data, and the more data you have, the better insights you can deliver. But actually, I think it's the way you deliver them to senior stakeholders at a client. You've got to try and keep it simple, and you've got to try and be able to translate often quite complex analytics and stats into a story and a narrative. Because that, and speak their language. Absolutely, use the acronyms of the client, but just keep it as simple as you can. And for many researchers, that's really difficult. The advanced analytics and stats is hard. That almost uses the kind of mathematical side of the brain, but translating that into a story and narrative and make it easy for your client to understand and action, that's the hard bit. So I think the agencies and leaders who get that right, the future's theirs, I think.
Yeah, I remember I saw a presentation once from Ipsos that said that the true value was translating the data science from research was the data translation for clients.
Yeah.
And you're speaking before about AI.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not your core function, but can you share a practical example where AI has had a clear positive impact, either in your internal operations or in the way that you deliver value to your clients?
Yeah, well, I mean, AI is obviously here to stay, and it's almost the most recent. It's going to be a big revolution. I mean, it's already happening, isn't it? So we all have to embrace it. Our operations team are using it a lot for validation purposes. I think from an analytics point of view, particularly text analytics, these big verbatim and commentary you get back in customer reviews, mystery shopping, using AI to really spot those trends and narrow in on the trends and help you with the analytics. I really hope that we're always going to need human beings to speak to other human beings about what the data means. I sincerely hope that's the case, or I'll be out of a job. But AI, I think, can really help get you to those insights quicker.
Yeah, but it brought quality of life to our work as well, because we are in this business for 25 years and we know how it used to be 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Take care of everything. So.
Yeah.
It's true. So we spoke before, and you shared a lot already for your product recommendation. That is one of Ipsos' best mystery shopping products. But it's so important for this particular industry that we are sharing today in terms of electronics in retail stores.
Yeah.
So based on this review of the analysis that we have presented, I was wondering if you can share again a little bit about how this product recommendation product works in Ipsos.
Yeah. Well, if we think about the kind of the fundamentals of a mystery shopping program, you've got your sample, you've got your questionnaire, and you've got your shopper guidelines or shopper briefing notes. So it is a sophisticated research tool, mystery shopping. The difference with product recommendation shopping is that you are really doing the mystery shopping on behalf of a manufacturer normally, and you are going into third-party retailers. You can't shop every single retailer that sells a phone or a washing machine normally. I mean, you just can't do it. So the sample has to be representative of the retailers that sell that product, and it has to be robust. So that in itself is different from, say, a program you do for a provider where they're just assessing their own network. They might say, can you just go mystery shop all my stores? Okay, we can do that, but not on product recommendation. The briefing notes are key. You've got to make sure that the shoppers are going in, they're meeting the profile of a typical buyer. So you probably wouldn't send a student in to go and buy a kind of high-end washing machine, maybe. But they've got to go in, and normally you wouldn't allow them to say, I'm looking for this brand. You would leave it open. And the first main step is to assess, right, what is recommended first? Is it brand X? Is it brand Y, et cetera, and what is the employee saying about it? You might then say second recommendation. And if it's not mentioned, you then would say to the shopper, okay, you can mention brand X, our client, and see what their knowledge is like. And things like negativity, do they say anything negative? This is all critical to the sales process. So it's slightly different from what people might regard as kind of everyday normal mystery shopping. Mm-hmm. So, and hopefully I've kind of made that clear to everyone who's watching.
So in terms of questions, you have then the brands that are recommended.
Yeah.
If your client's not recommended, if they're nudged, if they're recommended or not, and then in terms of negative comments and then the attributes that are linked to each one of the brands. In a nutshell, those are the main questions in the questionnaire.
Absolutely.
My question would be exactly that, because if it's from the manufacturer point of view, if the results are not the best, what is the kind of actions that they can take based on those insights?
Well, if they can invest in brand ambassadors, so they can put effectively people working for them in their uniform in stores. That costs money. So you've got to try and prove, is there a return on that? They can invest in more POS. They can invest in pricing. They can, of course, invest in training. They can also give commission. There's lots of ways they can invest. These things all cost money. So, when you're talking to clients, you say, this is going to cost you, but actually we can see the return you will get from that in higher sales.
Yeah, and we are usually talking about high ticket sales
Yes.
in this market.
Yeah.
And besides that, depending on the findings and the objectives, what complementary research would you recommend besides mystery shopping?
Well, things like reviews and voice of the customer surveys, that can give some really strong hints across the customer journey, as we've shown, about where you might want to focus.
There's a lot of low-hanging fruit, is what you're saying.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, if they're seeing negativity, but imagine any of us going into a store and buying a TV or a washing machine. If that member of staff said, I wouldn't buy that, it's not very good. I mean, you're not going to buy it, are you?
That's huge.
Yeah,
That's huge.
It's huge. It's huge.
Because they're considered to be an authority because they work there, they see the returns, they see which ones come back.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, a customer has chosen to go to that store because they want to speak to an expert. And if that expert is telling them, I wouldn't buy that product.
And they could be working there 2 weeks. And
It
the customer has no idea.
Yeah.
It can be like my grandmother had a problem 10 years ago with that brand. And that's the base of the recommendation.
Yeah. But if that member of staff said, this is the one you want, it's got X, Y, and Z, and they've asked the needs of the customer and they've matched the product to the needs, this is great. The chances of that sale being converted are multiple times higher than if there's a negative review.
Yeah, and one particular point on that is also because the online shopping experience is still not good enough, because if you choose the tool to compare, it will not compare properly all the features of its products.
Yeah.
So the brands are still falling short on that experience digitally.
Yeah, and the customer can ask questions. It's difficult to ask a question online. So it's written these big ticket items. It's still really, really important, that personal experience. Yeah.
So Andy, let's end as we began with the future.
Okay.
So what do you see as the biggest opportunity for the mystery shopping industry in the coming year?
I see opportunities across multiple sectors. Wherever there is a human employee to customer interaction, there's an opportunity for mystery shopping. All the sectors you guys have done on this prove that. And I think people have got to understand there are slightly different types of mystery shopping as well. This one is what we call product recommendation mystery shopping. But if we were working with a retailer selling their own product, what we would be looking at is, are those employees following the sales behaviors that will convert that product? For those clients, they basically want to sell more things. So that's where we focus. But then compliance is a different area. Age verification mystery shopping. We do, delivery work for big companies for underage products. And the one thing they have to measure is, are those delivery drivers asking for ID? Because if they don't ask for ID and these underage products get into young person's hands, the damage that can do to a brand, to regulation, to compliance, to fines is massive. So again, it's mystery shopping, but it's just in a slightly different area. So I think, if we broaden our minds, look at the different sectors and look at the different reasons for using mystery shopping, I think our industry will continue to flourish.
And thank you so much for sharing your expertise with your audience, and congratulations again to the Hall of Fame of Presidents of MSU.
You're putting too much pressure on me, Chris, honestly. But really, really thank you for having me. I hope it was great being here. I really appreciate it.
From your thoughts on the future of mystery shoppers to the nuance of brand recommendations in retail, this conversation has been full of insights, and I'm sure that our community will have a lot of takeaways. And I hope that your fresh perspectives on how to use data to observe all this customer behavior will bring fresh ideas to your audience. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Thank you. Andy, thank you so much for being part of our Synergistic CX podcast today. And congratulations again on stepping into the role of MSPA president. Before we close, what's the best way someone could contact you at Ipsos if someone in our audience wanted to have a chat with you?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me again. It's been really, really great. I think LinkedIn, if anyone wants to contact me, is the best way. That's Andy Firth, ANDYFIRTH at Ipsos. Please contact me. I love having these conversations and would really value any discussion.
All right. Thanks again.
Thank you. Cheers.
That wraps up another episode of the Synergistic CX podcast. Go visit our website, www.cx-channel.com, to download the magazine for free, which includes this episode's industry study about electronics retail stores and also a very special case study from Ipsos about product recommendations. The magazine also includes detailed results and additional commentary. Be sure to press that subscribe button and follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or the social media of your preference to stay up to date on our activities. And please leave your questions and comments about what industry you would like to see us explore next. We love your feedback. Thank you for being a part of our podcast, and we'll catch you next time here on the CX channel, where industry CX professionals converge.